And that's why you should never give out a waitress your real name. Uh, thanks for the advice, dude, but can you leave? I'm kind of in the middle of some. Yeah, but I could just leave. Fine. Rude. Ugh. Why do I even bother with that guy? Anyways, welcome to Just the Vibes. I'm Miguel Perez.
And I'm Laine. How's it going?
How's it going? Singing in the rain. Mother.
I'm singing in
Come
the
on.
rain. I'm singing in the rain.
Please don't tell me that we're gonna get in trouble for that. Anyways, for those who don't understand the joke, it rained all day yesterday and earlier this morning. So
Exactly, bro. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. No need to worry.
yeah, man, why do we even bother? Eh. I mean, at this point, California's starting to become extremely unpredictable. I mean, one moment we're fine, and the next thing you know, out of nowhere, literally it starts raining cats and dogs. Next thing you know, we might end up starting getting vivid. Oh my god, I can't.
The
So
struggles with your tongue just being fucked up is basically what that is, folks.
so here's the thing. I'm not exactly in the best condition or the best I guess you can say health at the moment. I my tongue is covered in cold sores. So speaking is pretty difficult for me at the moment. Thinking about it now, how long does it take for something like that to heal? Like a week at most?
Well, yeah, I think so. So unfortunately, my girl, she kind of deals with the same sort of thing. Unfortunately, it's like a genetic thing, is what she's told me too. So it's very unfortunate for those circumstances, obviously. But yeah, for the most part, they pretty much, depending on the cold sore and where it's at, it goes away. I want to say after about a week, something like that. So you have a little while to go, and it really sucks, unfortunately, for me too, because I'm sitting here like, damn, I wish I could kiss you right now, but I really can't. Because if I kiss you, then I'm going to deal with the same situation, and I don't really want to deal with that. And she always be giving me a hard time, like, man, you just don't love me enough. And I'm just like, you know what, bro? Don't even start with that.
I mean, she kind of has the right to start with that. I mean, she is your girl, so
I know, but still, it's like, funny enough, I was hoping
yeah.
for a different reaction out of this, but I was like, well, okay, put your role differently. Let's reverse the roles. What would you do if you were in my shoes? And she was like, I'd still kiss you. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, fair enough. I guess I'm a piece of shit.
Well, first things first, I'd probably invest and not invest, but go to the local farmers market, get some ginger roots because I heard that those are pretty good for relieving cold sores.
Yep.
And then I'd kiss her.
Boom. No, actually, and funny enough, right now she's literally dealing with it. I think she's on her last day though. I haven't seen her today, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm pretty sure she's like on her last day of it kind of being there, and then now it's finally gone. So it's a good thing for her, but at the same time, yeah, it definitely takes some time, unfortunately. And yeah.
All right. Well, everybody's body is different. Some people heal fast, some people don't. And well, that's a well, in one point that's the good thing about being human is that everybody's different, but at the same time, it can really bite you in the ass in that case.
Fuck yeah, human science. Let's go.
Basic biology.
Yeah.
Wait, is the correct term to use in that sentence biology or anatomy? Eh, you know what? I'm not even gonna.
Uh,
I wouldn't even bother with it.
I'm gonna say science. But
Even though
that's
that
not
is a.
100%.
All right. Anyways, going on to today's topic, and that would be the trading card game Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's time to duel. I would
Love
do the
it.
sound effect, but again, I can't. Actually, you do it. You do it.
It's time to duel.
Perfect.
That was actually, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I'm not even gonna lie. Earlier, I like practiced it one time, and I was like, "All right, yeah, you got this shit."
I guess it's a good thing I'm having a tough time speaking because you just took advantage of that. You took the show. Congratulations.
Round of applause for myself. I know I'm good. I'm good. Forgot that we had that.
Thank God for the creation of the soundboard. Anyways,
Seriously.
so real quick, for those who don't really understand what Yu-Gi-Oh is, first things first, where the hell have you been living all of your life? And second, as of late, the game has become complicated. But to put it simply, it's a trading card game very similar to Pokemon and Magic the Gathering. It involves two players, and both players start out with 8,000 life points. The goal is to get your opponent's life points to 0, and if you do, you win. Decks are built using. Oh my god, my tongue. Decks are built between the minimum of 40 cards and then the maximum of 60 cards with a 15 card extra deck and a 15 card side deck. So your decks are consisted of your main deck, which is between 40 to 60. My tongue cards.
It's okay. You're doing a great job considering your situation.
I'm trying really hard not to scream in pain. Anyways, your main deck, your extra deck, which is 15 cards of these very special monsters, which we'll get to in a second. And then your side deck, which is just extra cards that you can switch out in between games. So what makes Yu-Gi-Oh very different compared to Pokemon and Magic the Gathering is that there are multiple card types, and they're all distinguishable by the color that their main borders are designed for. So you have normal monsters, which have I guess you can call it like a vanilla type of border, which has the image of what they look like as well as a description of what they do. There's the spell cards, which have a green border, which again has an image of which gives you an idea of what it does, and then a description which tells you what it can and can't do. A trap card, which is the same thing, except instead of having a green border, it has a pink border. And that's the foundation of the main deck. But here's the crazy thing about it. So the green cards can be activated during your turn or no. Your turn either from your hand or by setting him down. Whereas the trap cards can only be activated on your opponent's turn. There are exceptions to that rule, but after that, the game just gets really complicated. So we're just gonna stick with that basic, the basic knowledge of the game for the sake of this explanation. Okay, do you want to explain the extra deck? Because my tongue is really starting to mess.
Yeah, I
With me.
got you. I was like, I was just about to say something. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna let him talk because another thing too. I'll admit for myself, I'm sorry, I'm burping a lot for some reason, and it's not really helping me out here. So for me, I've only played Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh. Never played Pokemon in my life. Even if I did, it was like I was basically a young fucking kid. I was like probably like 8 or something like that. So I don't remember much of the game. So for you to explain most of it was probably smarter anyways, because you had more in-depth knowledge of all 3 games, pretty much. So but yeah, as far as the extra deck goes, there's a lot going on now, unfortunately. It's like Miguel also just said, it's gotten very complicated. There's a lot more extra deck monsters now that you can use. The newest format is technically Lynx, right? That's still like the newest one.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got Link monsters, um, Xyz, synchros, fusions, which we're kind of getting to the older standard now. Uh, I don't know. Would you even consider ritual monsters technically as an extra deck? Because they don't belong in the extra deck, but they are kind of like a bigger monster norm than
Mm,
like normal monsters, I guess. But it's
they
very
don't. They
interesting.
don't. I don't think they go into the. They qualify as that, especially since rituals have been in the original. Well, since the first, uh, the very first cards were printed.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the one thing that is a little bit more confusing is the pendulum monsters, which are
Oh
technically
yeah, that's right.
considered monsters that belong in the extra deck. However, I I don't. Eh, it's complicated. Let's just say that to summarize everything, the game itself is really complicated, especially with today's rules and stuff. But it's a game that both Lane and I we enjoy playing all the time. Usually, whenever we hang out in person, the first thing that we do is we take out our decks and we just get to dueling.
Exactly. No, I enjoy it a lot because even though it may be complicated, it's once you get the hang of everything, you feel pretty smart about it just considering like we've just been talking about, it's just very complicated and there's a lot going on. So when you're able to keep up with all of this shit going on in the game and what you need to know as far as your own personal knowledge goes, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's also why, on the other hand, I'll play Magic because it's a lot more simple and you have quicker games. So it really depends on how I'm feeling that day. Sometimes I'll just do both. Sometimes we'll just do both in general. But sometimes I like Yu-Gi-Oh more because you get like crazy combos going and there's just a lot of opportunity. Sometimes you'll get games where unfortunately you get bad hands and it's like shit, all right, that's unfortunate, but sometimes you could still do something with it. That's the whole point. So in general, I think Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic, even Pokemon can be pretty good too, but I personally have always preferred Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was a lot of fun getting to learn the whole game eventually once you and I started hanging out again back then in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was just another one of those things that got us to click in our friendship was
Not to
just
mention,
Yu-Gi-Oh.
I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh definitely. I grew up with both Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, watching both of those series. But to me, Yu-Gi-Oh has always been a lot. Uh, I thought it was cooler only because the monsters looked a lot. They looked terrifying back in the earlier days,
True that.
dude. Okay, so first things first, we should probably talk about how we even got into Yu-Gi-Oh. Obviously, it was because of our. Uh, it was because of the TV show. I mean, I love
Yep.
seeing Yukimoto, Seto Kaiba, but okay, be honest. There is not a single person that hasn't seen the series that has not said specifically. I'm sorry. I want a blue eyes white dragon.
Yeah, I mean, just to chime in, it's my favorite monster, Blue Eyes White Dragon, all day, every day. That will never change. It will never fucking change my mind. And growing up watching the original season, I liked Yugi Moto, obviously. Great fucking character. Love how it actually, it was really interesting to rewatch all the seasons from like the original season in particular all over again as an adult. Because I watched it, I want to say probably a year or two ago. And oh my God, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. Now there's a couple of seasons where I was like, okay, this is like it's not as great, but it was still entertaining. Still very entertaining. I love the fact too, personally for me, I liked Seto Kaiba. He was my favorite character just because he was kind of an anti-hero in a way. Like there was a point where he was a total villain. There was no question on like if he had any good in him or not. But later on down the road, it kind of becomes like he's like an anti-hero and you never really know what he's going to do. Is he going to actually help Yugi or is he just going to completely backstab him? And I fucking love it.
Yeah, I mean, Seto Kaiba definitely was one of the coolest characters uh, in the original Yu-Gi-Oh series, and there were a few others as well. But the thing is, with some of them, they either never really got a lot of screen time, and even if they did, well, Yu-Gi-Oh was created in Japan, and the series itself actually has two different versions. So there's the English version, which was dubbed over and distributed by 4Kids Media.
Yep.
And then the original one, which was Japanese, had a lot more. They had a lot more content. And one of the things about the Japanese compared to the English, when you rewatch it in Japanese, there are a lot of scenes that were either never touched upon or they were heavily censored. Do you remember that one duel with I can't remember what the other Dark Magician user was when Yugi was chained up and he was forced to deal with this other
Oh
uh
yeah, yeah.
so in the
Yeah.
English they had a plasma, like a plasma cutter, which would usually just get closer and whoever touched it would eventually get quote unquote sent to the shadow realm. That's not what happens in the Japanese. There is no plasma cutter. There's a legit chainsaw, and if your foot is gone, you're just gonna bleed out and die.
Yeah. It's crazy. Um when I rewatched the whole series, I did watch it in English, but there were certain parts in Japanese that I was like, I'm kind of curious. Let's go check this out. That was one of those moments, and I was like, oh my fucking god! Like this show gets darker as fuck. Or sorry, it gets a lot darker in the Japanese version than compared to the English version. I think they tried to keep it more like PG
Well, they tried
status,
to
maybe
target
13,
when it
but
was distributed in English. They tried to target it to children since it is a card game.
yeah,
But even just rewatching all of the other seasons that came after it, it was never meant to be a children's series. It was always meant to be like more of a teenagers series. I don't know why they decided to target it to children, but I guess it's whatever can make them a profit.
yeah, true that.
And even though I do love the original series, I'm gonna probably make a lot of people either mad or irritated. But the original series is not when I really wanted to start playing the game. I would have the cards, but I didn't actually start playing the game until Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, which is the third season.
Yep.
And the third season, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, I absolutely loved it. The whole card games on motorcycles thing, I thought that was really cool. Yusei Fudo, to me, I related a lot more to Yusei than I did to Yugi, only because, well, Yusei Fudo is the main protagonist of 5Ds. That pretty much should be uh it's common sense, but what makes Yusei so different compared to Yugi is that in the series there's two different places in which people come from. There is New Domino City, or in the Japanese it's Neo Domino City. And then there is another place called the Satellites, which the satellite is where literally there's nothing for anybody. It's literally just trashed, it's scrap metal. It's the one place that you never ever want to go. It's pretty much where all of the poor people in the 5Ds series live in, whereas Neo Domino City is where all of the rich, the elites, the politicians, that's where all of them live. So it's literally just you have one place in which it's nothing but poverty and another place in which it's nothing but luxury. Yusei Fudo comes from poverty, but he works his ass off to eventually unite both the satellite in Neo Domino City, and therefore creating one entire city instead of a split. I guess you can call it a split group. It's more like unification and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I relate to him a lot because growing up for me, it wasn't easy. Both of my parents worked. They both worked. We barely had a lot of the stuff that quote unquote people who live the luxurious life would have. Literally every day that growing up, I had to literally scramble for just a fraction of what others had. And eventually things did get better too. In a weird way, Yusei Fudo kind of represents what can happen if you set your mind to something.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I like, even though if your opinion may be like controversial to what other people think, I mean, it was a very entertaining season, and it brought more life, basically more opportunity for different extra deck monsters. This is where extra deck monsters really started coming into fruition with the game in general. And at that point, it kind of started expanding. And then I think, in my opinion, it got to a point where they probably should have stopped expanding all that shit. They should have kept it a little bit more simple, but like still, point is, synchro monsters were definitely very interesting, and they gave the game a little bit more life.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, if you don't add anything new, the game is going to get stale, but uh there's a limit to how much you can add before eventually people get tired of it.
Yeah.
I feel like
True
maybe
that.
that's why a lot of people, well, with either they just give up on the game or they switch to a different format. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
here's something that I got to talk about when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh. So in Yu-Gi-Oh, there's always been just one plain format, or better yet, the general format, in which everybody's got to just confide in that, and that's just how the game goes. Whereas, let's take Magic for example. Magic has a lot of different formats, so if you get tired of one, you can literally just switch over. I play a lot of. I used to play Standard, which is one of the formats that is played in Magic, but then I switched over to Commander, which in my opinion it's a lot more fun if you just want a casual get together with some people. It's so much better if you play it as a group too.
Yeah, true.
And with Yu-Gi-Oh, even though there is a general format, there are other formats. The most popular like secondary format is called Gold format. The reason why it's called that is because there is a spell card in Yu-Gi-Oh called Scapegoats, And I can't remember what year this format was played, but it was played using a ban list in which by following those the cards that are written on the ban list, or better yet, avoiding those cards and then building specific decks within those rules. The best deck in that format was called Goat Control, involving that one spell card, Scapegoat. And here's another thing. So, actually, it would be a better idea if I explain what a ban list is. So, a ban list, that's how we play our games in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's pretty much it's a list where certain cards are going to be specifically either forbidden from the game entirely, so you can't run that card, not even a single copy. But then there's also a limited list in which you're only allowed to run one card, a semi-limited list, which means you're only allowed to run 2 copies, and anything else after that is unlimited, so you can run as many copies as you want. The max amount of copies of a card that you can run in your deck is 3. And excuse me. Here's another interesting thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! There is another format which I myself enjoy playing. I wish more people would play it because it's a lot of fun, but it is also what some people would consider the hardest format of Yu-Gi-Oh! To play. And I think you might like this. It's called the Shadow format. It's also known as the dark format, the blacklisted format. Eventually, here's what that means. It means that the ban list is, well, it's ill and void, meaning there's no such thing as a banned card. All cards are fair game, but there's a catch. If you look at the ban list and the ban list says that a specific card is not allowed to be played at all in your deck, in the Shadow format, you're allowed to play 1 copy and 1 copy only. And moving forward, if there's a 1 card that's unlimited on the limited list, that means you're allowed to run 2 copies in the Shadow format. And if you have anything that is semi-limited, that means that you're allowed to run the max number, which is 3 copies. But here's where things get a little interesting. So when it comes to the rules of Shadow duels, in normal duels, there you'll have a set hand limit of 5 cards. That's the max amount of cards that you can start a game with. But you're allowed to add more if you have cards that allow you to draw more. In the Shadow format, 5 cards is that's the limit. You can't go over. You can go under, but you can't go over. This is where things get pretty interesting. So usually the player that goes second in a normal duel can draw a card from the top of their deck. But in a Shadow duel, you can't draw any cards until you have until both of you pretty much have 4 in your hand. So first player and second player do not draw cards. They're stuck with what hands they have. And that's just one of the craziest rules of the Shadow format. Another one involves the extra deck monsters and pretty much anything that gets special summoned. So when you normal summon a monster, you can attack immediately with it, unless you're going first. But monsters that are special summoned are not allowed to attack until the beginning of your next turn. This is where you got to be very technical. You are allowed to use their effects, but you're just not allowed to attack with them. This makes deck building extremely tricky, and this forces you to think a lot more on your feet, because you can't just attack and deal damage. So you got to do the best that you can to try to either buy yourself some time or try to see if you can get your opponent to make a mistake. You all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you. My cat almost lost her footing, and I fucking barely saved her from falling because I was like, "Oh shit, no!" But it was kind of funny to watch her like stumble a little bit. I was like, "Oh shit, no, don't go that way."
Hey, you're fine. You're fine. Yo, here's a crazy thing uh, about the shadow duels or the shadow format. Another thing that I forgot to mention is just because you're allowed to run a specific card, it does not mean that you should. A good example with that would be a card called Maxi, which as of the recording of this episode, it's banned. So you're not allowed to use it, which is a good thing because I hate that card. You hate that card too, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
And if you not a single person that plays the shadow format is ever gonna run that card, and here's why: the set hand limit for 5 makes it so that, let's say somebody okay, maybe I should explain what happens when you use that card. So what happens is you can just discard it, maxi, and then whenever your opponent special summons a monster, you essentially get a free card. So every single time you special summon your opponent special summons, you get to draw one card. And if their deck heavily relies on that, that means that you're pretty much just going to get uh a really good hand of cards. But
Mm-hmm.
in the shadow format, if you have more than 5 cards in your hand, you have to discard the cards that you drew into the graveyard until you have only 5. So if you were to use Max C in a in a shadow duel, that's pretty much well, you're pretty much just asking to lose the game because by doing that, you essentially just gave up almost half of your deck to the
Yeah,
graveyard.
yeah,
That's a good example of just because you can run it doesn't mean you should run it.
yeah. I agree.
Man. But yeah, the shadow format it's a lot more technical too. The games are a lot slower, but they're a lot more fun. And here's another interesting thing about it. So, as I mentioned earlier, normal duels have your main deck, your extra deck, and your side deck. In the shadow format, you're not allowed to have a side deck at all. And your main deck, it has to be 60 cards. You can't run 40. And well, this means that games are going to be running for a long time.
True that. But at the same time, it like if you got the time to do it, I recommend it. I recommend it over the standard play of just Yu-Gi-Oh in general. But at the same time, it just really depends on what time you got.
I feel like we're literally just trash talking the main game at this point. We're not trash talking the main game. It does have its issues, but it is a lot of fun. We do recommend that anybody who hasn't given it a try it out. But there is a learning curve with that game. So my advice
Majorly.
is to, first things first, be patient. You're not going to get the whole game overnight. Take it from the two of us, where we took a long time to actually learn how the game works now. But if you put in the time and if you're willing to do the work, you can get the game down pretty well. And there's also other people that really enjoy the game for what it is, and for the other formats, there's even trading card shops which hold tournaments on a weekly basis. Um, Lane and I, we used to go to those all the time. Thinking about it now, we got to go back to those.
Yeah, it has been a while. My issue all the time though is I've never got like Saturdays off specifically because I know that's when the one shop in oh
Let's go.
yeah, thank you. In Esco they hold it on Saturdays and I always never almost have fucking Saturdays off. But yeah, no, we gotta go at some point. Doesn't really matter anywhere, but even if it's Imperial.
Yeah, Imperial's a pretty good place to go. If anything,
Yeah,
we could also try Kingslayer, but those are on Tuesdays.
that's true. Yeah, it just really depends on like what we have for days off and whatnot. But yeah, no, I fully enjoy it. I fully enjoy I enjoy the fact of like what they kind of did past for like the original season in particular, what they did to further the storyline pretty much. So like for example, just them making the movies like Yu-Gi-Oh! The original movie, um Bonds Beyond Time, I think, is the one that I was trying to think of for a minute, where they morphed Yugi, Jaden from GX, and
You say from
Yusei
five
from.
Ds.
hmm That one was very short, unfortunately. I really wish they would have taken more time. I feel like it was such a short little movie that I was like, man, that's it. That's it. So a little bit disappointing on the time, but really really good movie. I recommend giving it a shot as well.
There's also Dark Side of
um
Dimensions, which is
yeah,
the most
oh,
recent movie, and it is, my God, it is really, really fun to watch. I highly recommend it.
not only the storyline was good but just god, it just looked good. It looked really really good for everything being updated as far as just how the whole show looks. Oh my god, I was really really impressed when I got to watch it for the first time. um yeah, yeah, that's all I
Ow,
got.
my fucking tongue.
No, but actually we never even got so who was your favorite monster? We never got to that point.
Oh, my favorite monster was Stardust Dragon. The It's Yusei Fudo's main monster, his ace monster. And I really love it because, for starters, it's probably the most impressive dragon that was ever designed, for especially for the time when it came out. Because, okay, I got to be honest here. Blue Eyes White Dragon is a really cool monster, but if you look at the original artwork for Blue Eyes compared to the re-release for Dark Side of Dimensions, the Blue Eyes White Dragon did not look white at all. It looked
Yeah.
it looks like a sky blue with overly saturated eyes.
Yeah,
Where
pretty much.
and I don't know why that's the case. But then when you take a look at the Stardust Dragon, which is technically supposed to be silver, um the white colorway that they use for the for its design is absolutely incredible. The orbs that are on its chest are really well made. And the effect that it has, well, what it does is, what you can do is you can send it to the graveyard after you summon it. And if somebody tries to destroy something that's on your field, that's what we call the uh how we play the game. It gets negated. And then, unlike other cards where if they just get sent to the graveyard, they're done. At the end of your turn, Stardust Dragon comes back to your field. So you can just keep using it over and over.
Yeah, and definitely back then when we were first just starting out to play again, I feel like that's kind of when like Link Monsters didn't come after like a year or two after we started playing together. I think we were mainly on Synchros and XEs was like kind of the next step up. So during that time, basically, what I'm trying to say is around that time, Stardust Dragon was one of the best cards to have, especially if you're going to have a synchro deck. One of the best monsters to have, 100%. It was very hard to negate that effect and get a loophole around it, basically.
Well,
So,
here's the thing. It was really strong, especially in that era. But well, there's a term that gets tossed around a lot in trading card games called errata, and what that means it's a redesign of the effect. So usually that happens if a card is really broken or really
yeah.
overpowered, and that's what happened to Stardust Dragon because when it was first printed, you couldn't negate it. Whereas once it got an errata, it can be negated, meaning
Mhm.
that overpowered strength that it had was just gone.
Yeah.
It sucks, but yeah, they're necessary if you want to keep the game balanced.
Yeah. True that.
Actually, speaking of the Stardust Dragon, I gotta tell a story. So I have a lot of Stardust Dragons in my personal collection, but there was one card that I had specifically. This version of Stardust Dragon that I had was a Ghost Rare. So
Oh,
I'm not gonna explain what the rarities are because it's pretty complicated. But Ghost Rares are the essentially they're what you want if you want to collect them because their value is extremely high. And
they're the best. They're the best in
they're
my
the
opinion.
best they're the best that you can buy with your money. They're very expensive, but for some reason the ghost rarities of any cards shoot up in value by the thousands that I'm not kidding. You can literally get them or resell those cards, ghost rares, for thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I I've never had the right, unfortunately, to have a ghost rare card in my life yet. I thought about buying a Blue Eyes ghost rare at some point. I never did it because, to be honest, I never really had the money for it. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, I mean, it would be cool to have, but at the same time, it's a situation where it's like I could be using that money for other things that are probably just a little bit more important at that precise moment that was going on. So, but yeah, they are the best.
I mean, I had a ghost rare Stardust Dragon, which I can't remember how much they're going for now, but last time I checked, you could resell them for $8,000, which is a lot of money. And I, how I got it, honestly, I can't remember, but I remember I had it for a very long time and I took really good care of it. And well, this sucks, but I ended up making the mistake of leaving my stuff unattended. And when I got back to try to, well, I went somewhere. I can't remember what I was doing, but then when I came back, my stuff was raided and that card was just gone. Somebody stole it, which sucks.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it's okay. Since we're going on that topic too, I'm gonna just downright say this shit. Y'all are some fucked up people to be stealing, even if it's a Yu-Gi-Oh card. But still, that's a pricey Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's not like it's some cheapy little fucking $1 card that you could easily get on your own with your own money. But at the same, it's like, bro, the fucking Yu-Gi-Oh card. Why are you stealing, bro? Like, and this is two-faced for me to say because I've been in that situation before. I'll fully admit it. I've stolen shit too. And even though the rush of the situation feels good, you just don't feel good later on. You feel, I would hope that you would not feel great about what you just did. So, I recommend just don't do it. it's just not worth it, and your self integrity is just out the window.
Yeah, you feel if you really want to get a rush from a card game, what I would recommend that you do is just well, actually I don't recommend this unless wherever you're in you're actually going to get consent from both parties, and that is betting. You can just bet like $1 or so and on a game, and if you win, you can just make your dollar back, or if anything, if you want to be like the whole anime-esque thing, you can just uh bet some Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Which actually, should I tell the story?
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that too. I was like, oh shit, I've done that before. Also, before you say anything though, so
Yes.
yes, you're basically correct. It's come down a little bit on price, but like first edition market price for a Ghost Rare Stardust is close to $1,700, and then anything below that, that's like it's more common Ghost Rares, I guess. They're like 300.
They went down in value?
Yeah, just a wee bit. But still, if you got like the original, then
You know,
you've got a good ass card in hand.
wow, they went down by a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe now might be a good time for me to try to recover it, but I'm not gonna I'm not gonna do that. But yo, here's a crazy thing. So the story that I'm gonna tell is something that to this day I still can't believe you would do that. Like at all. So I was just looking through I was at a card shop looking through some cards to see what I could do to boost up my deck. And I've played a lot of different decks at the time, but this one that I was playing in a specific day was, I call it, it's not a real archetype, but I always called it the junk toolbox deck. So almost all of my monsters had the word junk in their name. So I had junk synchron, junk changer, I had junk forward. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones at the top of my head, but you get the idea. They were all cards with the word junk in them. But I didn't use all of them that were ever printed. I would always substitute them with other cards that I thought would better benefit the deck. And instead of doing like a basic build, which I'm trying to do either a beatdown strategy or a control based strategy, what I did was I built something that I called a toolbox strategy, which is whatever I needed, depending on which decks I was playing against. I could easily just make it and win the game. It was really strong back in those days, but there was one card that was very expensive at the time. It actually went down in value a lot as of late, called Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And I remember when that thing came out, everybody had to play it, but it was extremely expensive. One copy of those cards cost you close to $200. And if you really wanted to play the best deck that was ever the best decks in the meta at the time, you had to play 3 copies of that card. And I had barely just saved up enough money just to buy the 3 copies that I had. So I was looking through some more cards that I could use. And then out of nowhere, this one person ends up just showing up, looking through the same cards and stuff, but doesn't see anything, and he just starts playing other players. But what he's doing is something that, well, first things first, the people that he was doing this with kind of deserved it because they ended up taking up the offer. But what they were doing was they were playing for money, and a lot of money. Technically, it was gambling, but since it was like a whole like concerned and not concerned, I'm trying to think of the word. Well, both parties agreed, so technically there wasn't any issues.
Yep.
And I decided to shoot my shot. Except I didn't have any money. So I had no idea what I was doing. But it turned out great because I actually ended up beating the dude big time. I can't remember which deck he was playing, but I remember that one of the monsters that he ended up making is called it's called the Turia Beast. And what it does is it pretty much just locks you from using a spell card, locks the opponent from using a spell card. And I just kept spamming that over and over, just preventing him from doing anything. And he was starting to get really mad. So I guess he was trying to up the stakes. And I said, no, I'm not even going to bother continuing. I don't even want your money. And I kid you not, this feels like an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! The anime. So I said, okay, you know what? If you want me to play you again, I'll play you again, but I'm not going to be playing for money. And I pointed at the Ash Blossoms that he had in his deck because they were of a higher rarity than the ones that I had. I said, if I win, you give me your Ash Blossoms. And I can't remember what I put down, but the dude just freaking shook on it. We played, I beat him, and I took his Ash Blossoms. It was amazing. I felt like I was the king of games. I knew what Yugimoto must have felt like.
To this day too, I still don't understand why that kid really thought, like, bro, you've already lost. Just accept the loss, move on. It's just not gonna happen. Just leave it be. Sometimes it's just how it has to go. But yeah, it's unfortunate for him, but good shit for you.
I ended up not only buying my freaking Ash Blossoms, but I even got another set for absolutely free.
Yep.
Yo, I kid you not. I was trying to keep a straight face, but once I left the card shop, immediately I just went,
laughing your ass off.
Oh, that was glorious.
Like, let's fucking go.
Dude, I was so happy that day.
I don't blame you. I would have been fucking stoked too. I've never had luck with just in particular like pulling good cards from like packs and that sort of thing too. But this motherfucker right here, him and his younger brother, not to mention these two have pulled
We have a lot
crazy.
of a lot of deck luck.
Yeah, seriously. The luckiest shit I've seen so far that I've never seen been beaten yet is your younger brother pulling fucking Baron de Fleur. That was Baron de Fleur. I was like, are you fucking kidding me, bro? You just pulled an $150 card. Like, what the fuck?
For those who don't know, Baron de Fleur is one of the newest releases for this batch, and it's a very strong card.
It's insane.
Yo, and here's the crazy thing about looking back at that. So I've been meaning to tell you this a while because I just figured this out. So the dude that I ended up playing for the Ash Blossoms was the same dude that stole my Stardust Dragon.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I recently found that out. And at that point, I just went, oh, that makes that defeat even better.
Huh. Well, wait, so how the fuck did you find that one out?
How did I find that one out? So I was minding my own business. I decided to go into Imperial of all places. And out of nowhere, I see him trying to, I guess, get rid of a big bulk. And a big bulk of cards. I don't know what the hell happened to him, but he just said that, you know what, just take them. Oh, just give me whatever the hell you want for them. I'll uh I'll take whatever. And he literally sold his entire collection for I guess $50. And then I got curious and ended up looking through the box of stuff that he had.
Hmm.
And one of the cards that I ended up seeing is a Ghost or Stardust Dragon. And then I took a closer look at it and I realized that it was mine.
Wait, was I there with you that day?
No.
Okay, shit. For some reason, I thought I was there with you that day, or maybe like you showed me another time when we hung out, and I was like, "Oh, okay, shit's coming into full circle then."
I mean, at that point, since he technically did sell it to the store, I couldn't really buy it back. And it was in pretty bad shape too. So I took really good care of that card. I don't know what the hell happened, but it was in the worst shape that I thought of. And I said, you know what? I think it's better off that somebody else gets it if they want it. That is.
True. Yeah, it's unfortunate, and that's another thing too. This is this is not me promoting stealing shit, but if you're going to steal shit that's pricey, probably keep it in good condition, you fucking idiot. No offense, but like, come on, dude. It's just, come on. It's just, you're better than that. Not only you're stealing shit, but you're just letting it get completely fucked up too at the same time. And it's just like, okay, cool.
I mean, hey, if that guy's listening to this, I still have your ash blossoms, dude. I still have them. They're in good condition. They're mine. They're mine, dude. Well, I don't have a camera on, but in case you can't, just to explain what I'm doing, I'm literally sprinkling salt on the wound.
Mm. Oh, salty. Um,
What's up?
so
Oh,
this made me think. So the most priciest card that I've ever owned in my life, I was just looking through all my decks and the collection that I have personally because I couldn't really remember. Because I actually shout out to my coworker Bryn, but there was a day like a couple days ago. Her and I were talking about Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon. She's like a huge Pokemon collector as far as cards go, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I kind of feel that with Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm the same exact way, and she's like, what was your most prized possession as far as like Yu-Gi-Oh goes? I was like, honestly, I want to say Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, but I know that's not true. I know there's a card out there that I probably spent like $30 on. So I'm like looking through, just found it. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. That one was the card. That was yeah, I think I got it for on sale. It was like 25, but in general it was like around 30, 35. So good deal for a good card. Also, got to go back to when we were talking about our favorite seasons and whatnot, and like our favorite characters. I love Joey in the original season. I love that he was the underdog. Um, the season that really caught me as far as Joey goes was I want to say it was season 4. I hope I'm right on this one because it's been a while, but where he had to face Merrick, like Shadow Realm Merrick, not original Merrick,
okay.
but that duel was insane. The fact that like he basically beat him, bro. He basically beat Merrick, but his body and his soul just couldn't withstand all of everything that was going on. So to keep it long story short, when there's a Shadow Realm duel going on, your body and your soul is literally dying after every hit that you take, and it gets to the point where you can't take it anymore, and you basically die. You basically die. You go off into another existence and never to be seen again. So that was definitely the duel where I was like, damn, Joey is like a hard fucking second as far as favorite characters go. For that duel alone, I was like, damn, that is what being an underdog is about right there.
Yep. Joey's definitely the underdog.
But yeah, I got my own Red Eyes Black Dragon deck also. Love it. It's definitely not, it's not one of my best, unfortunately, but I still enjoy to play it every once in a while, just for like more casual play. But yeah, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is the most priciest card I've ever bought in my life. I don't think I will ever go past that point unless if I'm making millions of dollars. Then I'll probably start collecting bigger cards like first edition Blue Eyes White Dragons and shit like that. But
You should try to
otherwise,
copy Moist Critical's Yu-Gi-Oh collection. The
mm,
dude's got all first edition cards, and they're all
oh, that's
hanging in
sick.
a freaking in a frame too. The dude's got them framed.
Yeah, see, that's where I want to be at some point. Some point, that's where I want to be with my shit.
All right. Well, let's wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. We're definitely going to be trying to do a bit more. We're going to be my tongue. My tongue, man, my tongue. You know what? Maybe you should end the episode.
Well, okay, so I know I've been getting a lot of requests with people wanting to be on the podcast as a guest appearer. So, um, we're still kind of figuring out like who we want to bring in first. I think if you're totally in agreement with it, I think we should bring somebody on for the next episode, depending on like what we're talking about and that sort of thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna get to that point. We'll have guest appearances from certain friends, family, that sort of thing, and we'll go from there. But thanks again for dropping in, guys. You are the best. Thanks for the support and keep at it. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Have a good night or day or whatever. Just have a good one.